Quickly, before we begin, I just want to preface this video by saying that I wanted to start off fresh with this channel and cover something personal to me, that being my favorite character in all of Star Wars, one of the many things that has been close to me my entire life. Today we'll be covering the canon history of Anakin Skywalker, also known as the Enforcer of the Galactic Empire, the infamous Darth Vader. Before he became the villainous Dark Lord of the Sith and a disciple of the dark side, Anakin Skywalker served as one of the greatest allies and Jedi to the Republic, being known as a risk-taker, an extraordinary pilot, a highly skilled warrior, and most importantly, a friend to many. Skywalker was born in 41 BBY, before the Battle of Yavin, on the planet Tatooine to a slave owned by Watto and the Hutts, named Sheev Skywalker, who later married Klieg Lars, a moisture farmer who lived in the Jundland Waste, and who freed Shmi later in her life. Shmi conceived her son via a virgin birth, and later raised him in Mos Espa until he was 9 years old. Although some speculate it was Sheev Palpatine, the vile Darth Sidious, who manipulated midi-chlorians and formed Anakin inside the womb of Shmi Skywalker. That being said, on one fateful day, when a Jedi, a Queen, a droid, and a Gungan, not including those who remained on the ship, arrive on his home planet in the year 32 BBY, Anakin Skywalker comes across them, as fate would decide, and graciously welcomes them into his home during a fierce sandstorm. It's important to mention that he also built a droid known as C-3PO, who would prove to be vital in certain missions later on. He becomes close with those he invited, particularly the Queen of Naboo, Padme Amidala, and even helps them buy the parts they need for their ship to leave the planet via the prize reward from the Boonta Eve Classic pod race. The Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn, and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi bring the boy to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to be tested after they discovered an overwhelming amount of midi-chlorians in his blood back on Tatooine, a count that rivals, and even surpasses, Grand Jedi Master Yoda. The prophecy of the Chosen One was now in the mind of the Jedi Council, as the 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker becomes a clear candidate for that title. However, the Council deemed the boy too old to begin training, which didn't sit well with Qui-Gon, who was adamant the boy was indeed the Chosen One, and was willing to take him on as an apprentice, claiming his current one, Obi-Wan Kenobi, was ready for the trials, and had learned everything he could from him in the ways of the Force. Unfortunately, the man who Anakin looked up to as a father figure and respected, had been murdered on Naboo by the menacing Sith assassin, Darth Maul. This, coupled with the untimely death of his mother later on during his years as a Padawan, is what began the fall of Skywalker. During his life as a Padawan, Anakin was always eager to prove himself worthy not only to the Jedi Council, but more so to his master and best friend, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was around this time where Anakin spars with a droid simulating Darth Maul, while many of the other Padawans looked on, along with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jedi Master Mace Windu, and Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Interestingly enough, the Chancellor had taken quite an interest in the boy's training, and is impressed after Skywalker defeats the droid. However, not everyone is as impressed, as some of the Jedi Padawans gag about how he's a slave to his emotions and that he'd never make a good Jedi. This, of course, angered him and reminded of his childhood on Tatooine with other children who would pick on him, which only made him more violent and aggressive. Using the Force, he levitates the Padawans' lightsabers and points them at their owners, saying, "Tell me, what emotions are you feeling right now?" Fortunately for the Padawan, Master Kenobi interferes and orders Anakin to cease what he's doing, leading to him apologizing to his fellow learners of the Force. If you'd like to read more into this, I recommend checking out the Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin comic written by Charles Soule. As his training persists, Anakin becomes more and more powerful in the Force, and more skilled with the lightsaber, using those skills and his piloting prowess to settle conflicts across the galaxy with his master. In 22 BBY, Anakin would meet the love of his life once again, now Senator Amidala, who he simply called Padme. He and his master temporarily serve as her protectors while bounty hunter Zam Wesell and Jango Fett attempt to assassinate her on Coruscant. Unfortunately for Wesell, Kenobi and Skywalker hunt her down and chase her in the streets of Coruscant, leading to her death at the hands of Jango Fett's Kamino saber dart as a way to silence her. This results in Kenobi visiting Kamino to further investigate and find Jango Fett, while Anakin travels with Padme back to her home world of Naboo. This all culminates in a larger plot being unearthed, in the discovery of the Clone Army, made for the Republic as a method of battling the Separatist Alliance. Kenobi chases Fett to Geonosis, leading to Kenobi's capture by the Geonosians, working for the fallen Jedi Master, Count Dooku, and the Separatists. In a failed attempt at aiding Kenobi, Padme and Anakin are also captured, and all three of them are sentenced to death. However, they are rescued by several members of the Jedi Order and the clones. Anakin and Obi-Wan track down a fleeing Dooku and duel with him, but are swiftly defeated by the immensely skilled and mighty Darth Tyrannus. "As you see, my Jedi powers are far beyond yours." Yoda then arrives to greet Dooku and forces him to flee, allowing an injured Anakin, who just had one of his arms severed, and Obi-Wan Kenobi to escape to safety. After this first battle on Geonosis, the Clone Wars commences, and Anakin becomes a Jedi Knight and begins to master his skills in the Force and his lightsaber form Gem So, also known as Form 5 of lightsaber combat. He becomes best friends with his clone captain, Captain Rex, after many missions with him during the war, marries Padme Amidala in secret on Naboo, and also takes on an apprentice of his own in Ahsoka Tano, developing a very strong relationship with her as a close friend, as her master, and as an older brother figure. Ahsoka's departure from the Jedi Order in 19 BBY, which is later on towards the end of the war, is one of the many contributing factors that led to Anakin's fall to the dark side. In this same year, Anakin beheads Count Dooku on the order of Chancellor Palpatine after a duel against him alongside his master, Obi-Wan, who's disposed of rather quickly at the start of the fight. Anakin taps into his rage and anger in order to defeat the Count, where he gradually overpowers him. "My powers have doubled since the last time we met, Count." And indeed they had, for he had many battles against the likes of Asajj Ventress, Savage Opress, and Dooku himself during the Clone Wars, which only reinforced his skills and proved his expertise. Anakin successfully saves both his incapacitated master and the Chancellor from the Invisible Hand, a modified Providence-class Separatist dreadnought, by piloting it down to the surface of Coruscant in a crash landing. A little later on, though, he discovers a horrible truth. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, a man he grew very close with and looked up to as a mentor, revealed himself as the Sith Master the Jedi had been searching for. Anakin leaves the Senate building to go to the temple and contacts Mace Windu to inform him of the news. Windu tells him to stay put while they deal with the issue. He, along with Kit Fisto, Agent Kolar, and Saesee Tiin, set out to arrest Palpatine, but ultimately fail after Palpatine lunges at them with a Sith scream. "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? I am the Senate." All four Jedi are killed by the now revealed Darth Sidious, with assistance from a manipulated Anakin Skywalker, who is subsequently dubbed Darth Vader. Execute Order 66. Leading the Great Jedi Purge, Vader storms the Jedi Temple along with the clones, who were programmed and brainwashed into turning on the Jedi, those they used to call friends, those who they fought alongside during the now-ended Clone Wars. Cutting down Jocasta Nu, Sindralic, many younglings, and any and every Jedi who stood in his way, Lord Vader swiftly cleared the temple before being ordered to Mustafar by his new master. Doing as his master so wished, he left for Mustafar immediately and was given his new task, to eliminate the Separatist Council, as they were no longer needed for Sidious's grand plan. After disposing of Newt Gunray, Wat Tambor, Poggle the Lesser, and the rest of the Separatists, Vader finds Padme on the landing platform and rushes to see her as soon as he sets his eyes on her. Soon after, he sees his former master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, in Padme's ship, and thinks they're conspiring against him. Padme tries to tell him this isn't the case, but he doesn't believe her and force chokes her until Kenobi demands he let go. They start dueling, not as brothers in arms, but now as bitter enemies, or at least that's the way Vader sees it. Anakin, feeling conflicted, unsure of his true allegiance, and betrayed by his old master, wife, friends, and former apprentice, uses his wrath and unmitigated anger to try and defeat the man who he would soon begin to despise like no other, only second to himself. The battle would soon end, with Obi-Wan Kenobi cutting his fallen apprentice in half, leaving him to burn on the lava banks of Mustafar. The most depressing part about it is that Anakin felt as though no one was there for him in his time of need. No Qui-Gon, no Obi-Wan, no Padme, no Ahsoka, no Rex, no one. They were all caught up and busy with the war. In addition, he was suppressed by the Jedi Order and slowly manipulated by the person he thought was the only one there for him, Palpatine. But in the end, Palpatine only used him. As punishment for his failure on Mustafar, Sidious had Vader's suit composed of outdated technology that would hold him back in a lot of ways. However, the suit would act as armor, provide life support, enhance his vision and senses, and was actually imbued with Sith alchemy to act as a replacement for his lost strength and vitality after the severe burns and injuries he endured on Mustafar. This suit was incredibly uncomfortable for Vader, which was part of the design by Sidious in order to keep him angry and in turn focused at all times. In one of his first missions with the suit, Sidious gives Vader the task of killing a Jedi and taking their Kyber crystal. This required him to go to the river moon of Aldolim in order to face the Jedi Karak Infila, who specialized in combat. After defeating Infila in a grueling battle, Vader uses his rage and anger to force the Kyber crystal to bleed, which makes the blade of his new lightsaber a Sith red color. If you guys want to learn more about how this works and lightsaber colors and what they mean in general, I'll happily make a video discussing that topic. During the early days of the Empire, Lord Vader would continue to slay more Jedi, including the likes of Farron Barr and Eeth Koth, and those he didn't kill, such as Ezra Bridger, Kanan Jarrus, and Cal Kestis, would live to remember their short and near-fatal encounters with the Sith Lord. In 9 BBY, Darth Vader once again duels his former master on the planet Mapuzo, where he drags him through a fire to make him feel the pain he felt back on Mustafar 10 years ago. Kenobi escapes with some help, but Vader continues to pursue him, where they eventually have another duel on an unidentified moon near the planet Jabin. Nearly another decade later, Vader and Kenobi have one final duel on the first Death Star.
I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
The battle ends with Vader as the victor due to Kenobi allowing himself to be killed and in turn manifest himself into the Force as a distraction for Luke and Co. to escape the Death Star. 3 years later, in the year 3 ABY, after the Battle of Yavin, after the destruction of the first Death Star and directly after the Battle of Hoth, Darth Vader begins tracking down the Millennium Falcon with his son Luke Skywalker aboard. That same year, Vader attempts to capture his son on Cloud City via a trap involving carbonite freezing, but ultimately fails when Luke escapes after their battle, where Darth Vader cuts off Luke's hand and reveals that he is his father, delivering the famous line,
"No, I am your father."
It is also later in this year where Vader reunites with Sabe, one of Padme Amidala's handmaidens and protectors from her time as Queen on Naboo. He travels to Naboo with her to revisit his past and finds the tomb of the woman he loved dearly before traveling to Polis Massa, the location at which his 2 children were born, Luke and Leia. It is at Polis Massa where Vader discovers Padme's last words, which consisted of her belief that there was still good in Anakin Skywalker. In 4 BBY, during the Battle of Endor, Luke surrenders to his father, and together they confront Emperor Palpatine. Padme's last words, his former master and apprentice's efforts, and his son's suffering all lead to Vader seeing the good in himself and realizing who he truly is, Anakin Skywalker. In a moment of compassion and selflessness, he lifts Sidious high above his head and tosses him down the reactor shaft, sacrificing himself and taking the blow of the Force lightning, killing Sidious and fulfilling the prophecy of the Chosen One. In his last breath, Anakin tells his son that his children were right about the good in him, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force Ghost appears in his final moments to help his old apprentice, his brother, manifest himself into the Force, allowing Anakin Skywalker to live forever. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more content from me, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Have a great day. See ya.